My millionaire son found me sleeping in my car and said, "Mom, and the BMW I gave you, you did not like it." My daughter-in-law stood behind him, her voice flat and decisive. "I gave it to my mother. She deserves it more." I sat in the driver's seat of my 15-year-old sedan, the worn leather sticking to my back, gripping the steering wheel like it could somehow hold me together. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team of the channel, Her Pain. It is inspired by real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative in nature. My name is Callan Merritt. I am 68 years old. I had never imagined that I would end a day like this, forced to spend the night in a car while the family I once trusted argued over a gift meant to ease my life. I glanced at the BMW parked a few feet away, polished, immaculate, gleaming in the fading light. Just a few weeks ago, that car had been a symbol of recognition and love. Now it had become a battlefield, a representation of all the subtle betrayals and manipulations I had endured for decades. My son's surprise gift, intended to show pride in me, had been hijacked by my daughter-in-law and my own family's relentless reasoning that someone else needed it more. The air in the car was cold, the quiet broken only by the occasional honk from passing traffic. I hugged my coat tighter around me, wishing that somehow my exhaustion could shield me from the sting of humiliation. I had always tried to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to give without expecting anything in return. That same nature, which had served me well for 68 years, now seemed to invite exploitation. My mind raced with the faces I loved and resented at the same time my son, confused and protective. My daughter-in-law, calm and uncompromising, the family I had spent a lifetime supporting, suddenly so willing to disregard my needs. I felt a mixture of shock and disbelief, an ache that spread from my chest into my fingertips as I realized just how much I had been overlooked. I leaned my head against the window, the muffled conversation outside fading into the background as exhaustion and frustration collided. Somewhere in the city of Portland, I had a home waiting for me in spirit if not in possession, a life I had hoped to reclaim. But tonight, all I had was this car and the weight of their judgment. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to rest, even for a few minutes, because tomorrow I would have to face them again, and I knew the confrontation would not wait. The car became both a refuge and a reminder I could not disappear, and I could not ignore what had happened. I didn't even have time to gather my thoughts before the door of the car swung open. My son, Nathan, stood there, his eyes wide with disbelief, and behind him, his wife, Lila, held that familiar calm, too controlled to be comforting. "Mom, seriously," Nathan said, his voice rising. "What are you doing sleeping in a car in the BMW I gave you? You don't even like it." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nathan, it's not about liking it. I just what Lila interrupted, stepping closer, her tone sharp but measured. "I gave it to my mother. She deserves it more than anyone. She has a family, obligations. You're retired. Alone, you don't really need it." Nathan's brow furrowed, his hands gripping the steering wheel of my old sedan as if he could steady himself there. "Lila, come on. It was my gift for her. My mom worked her whole life. She doesn't owe anyone anything. You can't just take it because it suits your plan." Lila tilted her head, voice soft but pointed. "Nathan, don't act like you're the only one who cares. Your mother-in-law needed it. You don't know the pressure she's under. I'm trying to do the right thing." The words cut deeper than I expected. Not because they were untrue, Lila had her reasons, but because the moment this BMW stopped being mine, it became proof of how little control I had over anything in my own life. Nathan's shoulders slumped slightly, his jaw tightening. Mom deserves this. You earned this. Don't let me hear another word about anyone else needing it. She's my mother, not someone else's responsibility. Lila's eyes flashed, just for a second, and I caught a glimpse of frustration behind her composed exterior. Fine, she said, her tone clipped. But don't expect me to apologize for thinking logically. I leaned back against the worn leather, heart racing. Listening to the silence that followed, Nathan glanced at me. An unspoken question in his eyes, whose side is he really on? I felt the weight of betrayal and protection intertwined, knowing that this moment would define what happens next. I leaned back against the seat, letting my thoughts drift through decades I spent keeping everyone else afloat. I worked overtime so your tuition could be paid, I whispered to myself. Imagining the faces of my children and nieces, I covered bills, lent money, fixed what broke without complaint. Nathan watched me quietly from the driver's side, his eyes softening. Mom, I know you don't ask for anything. I see what you do, he said, voice low. Lila shifted her weight, arms crossed. Callan, don't make this about your sacrifices. That's irrelevant. Logic matters here. I felt the sting of her words, bitter as it settled in my chest. Logic doesn't weigh the heart. I thought, logic doesn't count the hours I skipped meals, the repairs I made to keep a roof over someone else's head. Nathan's jaw tightened. Lila, it's not irrelevant. Mom earned this. She gave more than anyone could ask, and you can't just take it away. I'm not taking anything, Lila replied evenly, though her eyes betrayed frustration. I'm redistributing for necessity, fairness, efficiency. You don't see the pressure I have to balance things. I closed my eyes for a moment, the quiet punctuated by tension and unspoken truths. All my life, I put others first. And now my own reward, my dignity, my BMW is in question. My sacrifices are more than history. They are the backbone of who I am. Nathan's gaze met mine again, unwavering. I could feel the weight of that silent question. Would my past sacrifices finally mean something today? I barely had time to gather my thoughts before my phone buzzed. A group text from Lila and my son flashed across the screen, curt and deliberate. Mom, the BMW should be reassigned. Your sister-in-law needs it more. Think of the children. I exhaled sharply, gripping the steering wheel. They always justify everything with the children, I muttered to myself. Nathan stepped closer, voice low but firm. Mom, don't let them twist this. You know it's yours, not theirs. Lila leaned against the curb, arms folded, her expression perfectly composed. Callan, you don't see the bigger picture. Your brother-in-law and I have responsibilities. That car isn't just a gift, it's part of how we manage the family resources. You're retired. Alone. Your time is yours, yes, but theirs is complicated. I shook my head, anger rising beneath exhaustion. Complicated doesn't mean they get to take what isn't theirs. I earned that car, and Nathan gave it to me. It's not charity. It's respect. Lila's eyes narrowed, and her voice sharpened slightly. Respect isn't ignoring reality. They have kids to get to school, errands to run, emergencies. It makes sense for them to have the car. You're healthy. You don't need it like they do. Nathan's jaw tightened. You're crossing a line. This isn't about convenience. This is about my mom, Callan. She sacrificed for this family for years, 2 decades of work, unpaid favors, late nights, every expense covered without complaint. And now, because you think logic is more important than gratitude, you're trying to rewrite history. I felt the tension ripple in the air, thick enough to touch. Lila's gaze flicked to Nathan, calculating, almost predatory. Logic isn't rewriting history. It's preventing chaos. You don't see what it takes to keep everything afloat. I leaned back, the weight of decades pressing on me. Every justification, every sigh, every reason they presented chipped at my resolve. Their needs hung over me like a storm. My BMW, my pride, my small independence all caught in the crossfire of their version of fairness. I clenched my fists and whispered to myself, steadying the anger. How far will I bend before losing myself completely? I barely had time to process the argument over the BMW before my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lila, clipped and pointed. Callan, it's for the best. We're just trying to keep things fair. You'll understand soon. I felt a chill run down my spine. Fair, I muttered, gripping the steering wheel as if it could anchor me. Nathan appeared at my side, voice low. Mom, don't let them twist your sense of responsibility. This isn't about fairness, it's about control. Lila's voice came from behind him, casual but sharp. Callan, we're just reminding you that families have priorities. You don't want to be seen as selfish. Everyone notices. Everyone talks. I flinched. Their words felt like tiny cuts, each one precise, aimed at the part of me that had spent a lifetime giving without complaint. Nathan stepped closer. Mom, listen to me. You've given everything for decades. $200,000 here. Countless favors. Late nights making sure everyone else had what they needed. You don't let them manipulate you again. Lila tilted her head, almost sweetly. Nathan, she'll realize. You know she's a good person. She hates conflict. She'll do the right thing. The subtle threat hung in the air, do the right thing, or face judgment. Whispers. Guilt. Every word was a reminder of the years I'd sacrificed, the patience I'd shown, and how easily they assumed it meant I'd comply without resistance. I sank back in my seat, heart racing. Their calm, careful words were far more dangerous than any yelling or shouting. I realized in that moment, with crystal clarity, how much they had relied on my kindness, how much they expected it to bend under pressure. I clenched my hands in my lap, whispering to myself, I can't let them do this. Not again. I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every message, every glance, every carefully worded comment from Lila and my family echoed in my mind like a drumbeat I couldn't escape. Their subtle threats, their reminders of how kind I always am, had pushed me to the edge. Tonight, I realized I don't have the luxury of staying passive anymore. Nathan appeared at the passenger side, eyes filled with concern. Mom, you can't keep letting them corner you like this, he said quietly. They've been doing it for decades, I muttered, my voice raw. Every decision, every favor, every extra dollar I gave, they used it to justify taking what's mine. I've been bending, giving, ignoring, and it's never enough. Lila stepped forward, her voice deceptively soft. Callan, you'll see. Everyone expects cooperation. You've been stubborn before. But compromise is healthy. You don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Her words were poison. I leaned forward, my chest tight. Compromise is one thing. Being erased, manipulated, treated like I'm invisible, don't call that healthy. Nathan's jaw tightened, his hand brushing mine briefly. Mom, you're not alone. I'm with you. You've carried the weight for too long. You've given, and now it's their turn to understand consequences. I drew a deep breath, feeling a surge of clarity. This isn't just about the BMW. It's every insult disguised as guidance. Every expectation piled on my shoulders. Every inch of autonomy they tried to claim. I'm done waiting for them to realize it themselves. Lila's eyes flickered with impatience. Callan, it's not that serious, no. I interrupted, my voice stronger than I expected. It's serious because I won't be ignored. I won't let anyone decide for me anymore. That car, that choice, my life, they belong to me. Nathan nodded, his expression resolute. Then let's do this. No hesitation. It's time. I felt a tight knot in my stomach, a mix of fear and determination. Every instinct screamed caution, but another louder voice demanded action. Tonight, the balance shifts. Tonight, I either reclaim control or let another moment of my life slip away. I straightened in my seat, my mind steady despite the storm. This is the moment. I'm ready. I stepped out of my old sedan, the BMW gleaming a few feet away, and faced them both. Nathan's expression was firm, a mixture of protectiveness and frustration, while Lila's calm exterior barely concealed the sharp edge beneath. Mom, Nathan began, his voice low but urgent. You shouldn't have to be out here like this. That car is yours. Don't let them make you doubt it. Lila folded her arms, tilting her head. Callan, you know it's not just about ownership. We have responsibilities, priorities. You're retired. Independent, you can adjust. Your life is stable. We have obligations to consider. I felt the familiar weight pressing against my chest. But this time I refused to bend. Adjust. My life is stable because I've been making sacrifices for this family for decades. $200,000 here. Countless hours there. And now you try to dismiss that because it suits your logic. Lila's lips pressed into a thin line. Logic is fairness. It's practical. The children need the car more right now than you do. I shook my head, anger tightening my throat. Practical doesn't erase respect. Nathan, he gave it to me. He intended it for me, not for someone else's convenience. Nathan took a step closer, eyes locking with mine. Exactly. This is about more than a car. It's about your dignity. You've carried the weight of this family long enough. You don't give in anymore. Lila's expression faltered for a brief second, and I caught a flicker of unease behind her controlled demeanor. You don't understand? You don't see the pressure I'm under to keep everything balanced. I'm only thinking ahead. I understand exactly. I cut in, voice steady, louder now. I understand that every time I gave, you expected obedience. Every time I stayed silent, you assumed I would comply. Not anymore. That car is mine. My choice. My life. Nathan's hand brushed mine reassuringly. We do this together. No hesitation. You've waited too long. The tension hung in the air, taut and heavy. Lila's shoulders stiffened, and she glanced toward the street. Measuring her next move, for the first time, the power dynamic shifted, and I could feel it. I was done yielding. I pulled the folder from my bag, the leather worn at the corners, and flipped through the documents Nathan had helped me organize. Each page confirmed what I already knew: the BMW, the title, the registration, all in my name. Every signature, every number, every detail spelled out clearly. Nathan leaned close, his voice low. Mom, they can argue all they want, but these papers don't lie. This is yours. I exhaled, the tightness in my chest loosening slightly. I can't believe it got this far before I acted. I admitted decades of staying quiet, giving, letting them think my kindness was weakness. Lila appeared again, her expression unreadable. Callan, don't make this bigger than it is. You know I'm just trying to protect everyone. I lifted my head, eyes locking with hers. Protect them. By taking what Nathan gave me, by assuming my obedience, my voice was steady, precise, carrying the weight of years of ignored boundaries. I've given enough. Now it's time for you to respect me. Nathan placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We'll do this calmly, but we do it firmly. You won't be walked over again. I nodded, feeling a surge of empowerment I hadn't felt in years. I called the dealership, spoke to the registrar, and confirmed my legal claim aloud while Lila listened silently. No room left for argument. Her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes narrowing, but she made no move to interrupt. The balance had shifted, subtly but undeniably. I closed the folder, feeling a strange mixture of relief and triumph. It's mine, Nathan. Finally, it's mine. He smiled, firm and steady, and it will stay that way. No one's taking this from you now. The tension eased slightly, but I knew the next steps, the family dynamics, would still need careful handling. The real test was only beginning. The sound of the knock on the door made me tense, but it wasn't the voice of Lila or my son. 2 uniformed officers stood there, badges gleaming, paperwork in hand. Callan Merritt, one asked. Yes, I said, my voice steady despite the flutter in my chest. We received a complaint regarding the BMW and the claims over ownership. We need to speak with everyone involved. Lila appeared behind me, her posture rigid, her face unreadable. Callan, don't do this, she said softly. But there was no force in her words now, only hesitation. Nathan stepped forward, placing a protective hand lightly on my back. Mom, they have the documents. Everything's in order. It's time they face reality. The officers held up the papers, registration, titles, signatures, all proving the car belonged to me. These are the official records. The vehicle is registered in your name. Anyone occupying or using it without permission must comply. Lila's eyes flickered, and she glanced at Nathan, then me. Her calm composure faltered for the first time. This isn't necessary, she said, voice wavering. I stepped forward, holding the folder tightly. It's necessary. You've argued, manipulated, and undermined me for too long. This ends today. The officers instructed them to step aside while they verified details. And moments later, Lila reluctantly moved back. Nathan's expression was a mix of relief and restrained satisfaction. Mom, it's yours. Finally, I exhaled, the tension in my shoulders easing slightly. The BMW, the symbol of my autonomy, was back under my control. The weight of years of silent endurance lifted incrementally, replaced by a calm determination I hadn't felt in decades. Lila and the rest of the family retreated, voices lowered, faces tight with frustration. They could argue all they wanted, but for now, I had won legally and morally. Nathan looked at me, a quiet smile breaking through. I reached for the keys, feeling their familiar weight. For the first time in years, I could sit behind the wheel and breathe without guilt, without pressure, without fear. My car, my choice, my life restored. My life. I slid into the driver's seat of my BMW, the leather still warm from the morning sun, and let out a slow breath. Nathan stood beside me, his hand resting lightly on the roof, a silent reminder of his support. Mom, it's yours, he said, voice calm but firm. Every decision from here on, you make it. I nodded, the weight of decades of compromise and silent obedience settling behind me. I've spent too long bending to others, giving until there's nothing left, I admitted. It ends now. I'll help when I want to, not when they demand it. Lila appeared briefly at the gate, her expression unreadable. Callan, I hope you understand, she said. The words half apology, half justification. I understand. I replied evenly, not with bitterness, but with clarity. I understand what I tolerated, what I allowed, and what I will never allow again. Nathan smiled faintly. You've earned this peace. Don't let anyone take it away. I started the car, the engine humming a quiet victory, and as I drove through the familiar streets of Portland, I felt the subtle thrill of independence for the first time in years. The sacrifices, the battles, the arguments all led to this moment of calm empowerment. I realized that being kind doesn't mean being weak, and that self-respect is as vital as compassion. This is my life, my choices, my boundaries, and no one else's opinion will define what I deserve. If you've ever felt taken advantage of, comment below how you stood your ground or what you wish you had done. Hit like if you believe standing up for yourself is always worth it. And subscribe for more stories of people reclaiming their power.